It's probably the least welcome I've felt in an Irish pub in Chicago.
You got to know the whiskey and you've got to be able to pour a Guinness.
Potato crisps at the bar. Whee! So today we are going to check out some Irish pubs of Chicago. But wait, there were so many Irish pubs of Chicago. This might not be the only Irish pubs of Chicago video that I will do. In fact, it's not. So this is the first of 2 Irish pubs of Chicago videos, and I also will have an Irish pubs of Wisconsin video coming up. Hello, Wisconsin! These are some of my favorite videos to do. If you haven't seen them, do check out New York, Anaheim, Philadelphia. Where else have I been? There are others. There's a playlist. I'll add the playlist at the end of the video. So if you've never seen me before in your life, I'm Diane. I'm from Ireland. Born and raised, baby. That's the opposite of an Irish accent, but yeah. And without any particular authority whatsoever, I give my subjective opinion on Irish pubs around the USA. So I did put up a poll before I went to Chicago asking what Irish pubs you wanted me to check out, and I tried to get to as many as I possibly could. Today we're going to look at 3. As ever, I will be rating these pubs on my very own tier list. 1. Irishness. That's something that just makes it authentically Irish, because Irishness the Americans can nail, but Irishness, that's really Irish. Number 2, the Guinness. Is the Guinness good? Is it poured well? Does it taste yummy to my tummy? And number 3, crack. That inexplicable Irish fun. The energy and ambiance of the place. Before I get into it, I will say these are my subjective opinions. Am I swayed by people being nice to me? Yes, I am. I think you'd be an alien not to be. But you also should know I don't tell them ahead of time that I am coming, and I try not to draw too much attention of myself. But the first clue, if I go into an Irish pub that I'm filming, is I'll ask them, do you mind if I film the pour? And if they ask me from there, oh, what are you doing? I just tell them. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. Without further ado, let's go. And our first stop in Chicago is going to be Celtic Crossing Irish Pub. This is such a lovely little pub. It's not the biggest of all the pubs we went to, but I enjoyed the fact that it wasn't trying too hard to be like a super pub or be super duper Irish themed. It did feel quite authentically Irish, like maybe not a super pub, but like somewhere maybe in a city. And I have to say the energy here is the first thing that hit me. It had a really lovely positive energy. And when we hear about the history of the bar, which I'm going to get to in a minute, that's going to make a lot more sense. First things first, I had to try the Guinness, and of course Paddy the barman, what other name would he have, is pouring a perfect pour. I was very impressed with how Chicagoans knew how to pour a perfect Guinness. There were very few that didn't pour it right. But of course the truth is in the tasting. So I am in Celtic Crossings right now. We got a lovely pint poured for us, but how does it taste? Oh, that's a good pint. That's a good pint. Sláinte. I was going to say Brucey bonus, but you might not know it. Potato crisps at the bar. That is very good. And this is the flavour. This is the flavour you guys need to try. I am partial to a smoky bacon myself, but this is the classic one. It goes in your sandwich, your ham and cheese with your Kerrygo butter. So try that one. And I was just hearing a lovely story from Paddy up at the bar. Apparently this place closed down a number of years ago, and a couple of locals liked it so much that they brought it back. They invested in the pub itself. And there are a couple of cool little staples in this bar as well. Something you'll note is the TV is not the centerpiece of the bar whatsoever. They try and keep it like very much a place where people can converse and chat to one another. But of course, people like to watch the old sports now and again, so there is a TV up there. It will please you to hear there are 125 pints poured per day in this bar. And as I said, although they don't call themselves a sports bar, you can watch the match now and again. There's also a lot of live music that happens here during the year. For now, I'm going to enjoy my pint and my packet of potato crisps. And of course, the barman is called Paddy, and of course, he's very nice. Great banter up at the bar. So how did Celtic Crossings fare on my rating scale? Irishness, 10 out of 10. They had a real Irish barman and his name was Paddy. I mean, can you get more Irish than that? And yes, we did get into a conversation about the fact that he lived just up the road from me. Ireland is really small. Plus, Paddy insisted I take a packet of potato, and that is pure quality Irish. Like, if you go to an Irish pub and you don't have a packet of potato, I don't know what's wrong with you. He's down here now. If you're having a round, you'll buy a packet of Tayto and put them in the middle of the table, and then everybody will just eat the Tayto. Inevitably, you usually end up getting as many packs as there are people, so you probably all should have just got your own pack in the first place. On Guinness, it is a 10 out of 10. It was a perfect pour and it tasted immaculate. And on Crack, I was a little bit torn on this because it was completely my kind of vibe. Like, I could see that place being my local. I like something a little bit more chill, and only for the reason that coming up we have one that has just so much crack going on. I'm gonna give it a 9, but on any other video it would get a 10. Before we move on to the next pub, do remember to subscribe, leave a comment. It can say anything. What's your favorite color? Green, green, green. And leave a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe if you want to see more of me. And you can pay for my pint by joining patreon.com or channel membership. So moving on to pub number 2. Up next, we had the Brehon pub, which I had high hopes for because it was very swanky looking from the outside. It was a little bit of a corner kind of place. You could easily miss it, but on the inside, it is very well decorated. Lovely styling and nice and cozy vibe. The walls are adorned with photos of ye old days, and I was pleasantly surprised at another perfect Guinness pour in Chicago. Look at that stop. And they let it settle. So how did it taste?
Cilantro. It was poured very well. But something about it is just a little off.
After editor Diane's examination of this video on closer inspection, we do have a theory on the Guinness and why I didn't love it. Do you notice in this picture the lack of fluffiness and small air bubbles in the head of the Guinness? Our working theory is that the composition was just a little bit off, and it is a very delicate balancing act on Guinness. The perfect balance of gases in a pint of Guinness is about 75% nitrogen and 25% carbon dioxide. This mix is actually quite different from most other beers which are served with carbon dioxide alone. Guinness uses a mix of both to get its distinctive creamy head, so that's our working theory on why the flavor was just a little off to my taste buds. It could also be an issue with something in the draft system, but I will say it was a perfect pour, so it definitely wasn't that.
Let me tell you a bit more about the Brehon pub. So this pub was named after Irish law, Brehon law, and it was started by 2 Irish-American brothers who were studying law in the city. The pub itself has been around for 30 years, and as I understand it, it has transferred ownership. Apparently the pub does food very well, but that is always an afterthought for me when it comes to an Irish pub. To me, this is the kind of pub you might come if you specifically wanted just a drink after work or something like that and you didn't want to be bothered. You can still see the coat of arms over the door.
Wait a minute, not so fast.
So I actually asked them where the coat of arms was, and they didn't know where it was. The girl thought maybe it had been taken down since the place was redone.
Okay, so now it is time to rate the Brehon pub. I thought really hard about whether I should include this bit, and ultimately I feel I'm going to because it is part of my experience, but bear in mind, you might go there, it might be your favorite pub ever. It was just my subjective experience in this moment in time.
And I have to say, it's probably the least welcome I've felt in an Irish pub in Chicago.
Absolutely nobody in the staff was rude to me or anything, but I did try to get a couple of chats going about the history of the pub or get a bit of banter going with them, and nobody was really interested in talking to me, which may have been just something going on in the moment. That is totally understandable, but this was just my experience. There was a man behind the bar who I think was in charge of everything, and he overheard me asking about the history of the pub, and he kind of just stared at me blankly and walked away, which I may have misinterpreted, but it wasn't overly welcoming or friendly. I'll put this in perspective. There is a local bar that I love to go to that has the worst reviews ever online, and it's because the owner here is so unfriendly to everybody he doesn't know. But when you know him, it's the best place in the world, and we love to go there. But I also understand why he has bad reviews from everyone else. So Brehon might be your favorite pub, and you might be completely right. This was just my experience. Am I doing too many disclaimers? Okay, on with the points. In terms of Irishness, I have to say the decor was great. This pub has everything needed on site to be a brilliant pub, but the vibe was off. So I'm giving it a 6 out of 10 for Irishness. The Guinness was a perfect pour, but it tasted a bit funny to me, so I'm gonna also give that a 6 out of 10. And the crack, I'm gonna give a 2. Sorry, I've explained everything. Moving on. Up next, it was on to Mrs. Murphy and Sons, and this was by a landslide the most wanted Irish pub for me to go visit in Chicago. And as soon as I stepped in the door, I could see the charm right away because I was greeted by a wide selection of Irish supermarket products, favourites from the shelves and the stores in Ireland itself. My Waddy, HP sauce, and yes, Kerrygold is coming up. There were bars of chocolate, and I have to say, most of these were like a very reasonable price. Hello, it's me. These are some of my favourite chocolate bars that I eat in Ireland. And around the corner was another little store, and it was more like the bakery kind of stuff inside. There were bottles of alcohol imported from Ireland. It was just really cool, and the whole pub, I could see before I even got inside, was decked out with this really authentic furniture from Ireland, right down to the little signs on the toilet. Very cute, by all means, ladies. And they had fridges full of stuff, and the notice boards had lots of cool events going on. But best of all, I got to chat with the owner.
We're a family-owned pub. It's myself and my brother Brian that are the two owners here. The building was originally bought by my dad. It was an old funeral home that had kind of fallen into disuse in 2002. He bought the building, ordered this gorgeous bar from some friends of his in Dublin, and passed away before he could finish it. Along with my stepmom, Beth Murphy, my brother and I, and her, we finished it, put it together, and here we are 18 years later. It'll be 19 years in September, still kind of doing it.
So are you like super hands-on? Are you here every day?
Yeah, I'd say that myself and my brother are pretty much here every day. We kind of split up the week and alternate weekends and just kind of make it work.
We were talking about Jeff there gave us a perfect pour. How did you guys learn the perfect pour?
I go to Ireland a few times a year. My brother lately has been going more and more also. We're real friendly with our Guinness salesman, and it's something that I think is really important, kind of at the core and heart of a good Irish pub. Like, you got to know the whiskey and you've got to be able to pour a Guinness.
And I hear you guys have live music and fun things for kids.
We do, yeah. We sessions 2 days a week on Wednesday nights and then Sunday afternoons, as well as the Irish Music School of Chicago does lessons for kids before the session on Sundays, as well as for adults, so people can not only take the lessons, but then sit in on the session and kind of properly learn, kind of proper folk music learning. And then we do live music on Friday and Saturday nights, usually leaning towards Irish, but once in a while we do some bluegrass or rock. We'll likely do more business on St. Patrick's Day than we will like the whole month of July.
I'm sure you have bouncers on the door and everything, do you?
Oh yeah, our staff about triples or quadruples. We're very fortunate that we have a lot of former staff that's willing to come back because it's a good day and it's good practice. Lots of fun.
This is very cool.
All the windows where my dad was a collector, they were from an old German banquet hall that used to be about a mile from here. They had an auction and you had to go in with your work crew to take them out.
So these are the original windows?
Yeah, they're from Zum Deutschenack was the name of this German restaurant.
And that's the music class inside?
Yeah, they're doing, I think, kids whistle and kids fiddle right now. And then they do adult classes too.
Meeting the owner of an Irish pub always makes the experience a little bit extra special, especially when someone takes the time to tell you about the history of the place and what it's got going on. So what am I scoring Mrs. Murphy and Sons out of 10? In terms of Irishness, this one I thought about really hard because it is super duper Irish, and I so appreciate the culture and heritage and what they're doing for Irish stuff in America. And I'm ironically for that reason going to give it a 9 out of 10 because Irish people just aren't that enthusiastic about anything. That's a broad generalization, but it's enthusiasm aired toward Irish Americans. It was a thing of amazingness. The Guinness was a 10 out of 10. They knocked that out of the park. And if I could give the crack an 11 out of 10, I would, but you can't do that. It's 10 out of 10 for crack. There could not be more going on here. I can't even think what you could do to make more crack here. It was so fun, and there were so many activities for family members, for couples, for people on their own. It was just a really good vibe, and I could see anybody enjoying their time here. No wonder it was the most recommended Irish pub to me in my poll. I was gonna say petition, poll. Let me know below in comments if you have visited any of those pubs and if you agreed or disagreed with me, and it's okay to disagree. That's it for today. See you guys on the other side. Bye.
Bye.